Hello, everybody. I hope everybody's keeping well and keeping safe at the moment. And welcome back to my ASMR channel. Actually, I haven't posted for quite a considerable amount of time, and that's my bad. I have been meaning to from time to time, but life unfortunately gets in the way, as I'm sure you all know. However, over the months that I have been away, I have obviously been consuming a lot of great content from other creators, but I've also had quite a few kind comments from a number of people saying that I should record something again, and this is my chance of doing that, I suppose. So I'll just get into what I'm hoping to do for you today, whether it's evening, night, or morning, or afternoon, whenever you're watching this, if you are. So 2020 has obviously been a year where we've all been confined really to our local areas, or we've been confined to our homes or wherever we live, and travel has not been restricted. So I've found myself spending a bit of time on Google Maps, looking at places that I would like to go to, or looking at cities that I would like to visit, and looking at them on Street View and having a bit of a virtual visit, which I always find fascinating. And I thought I could maybe do something like that with respect to some cities that either I've been to or would like to visit, and do that through the medium of having a look through Street View and recording it, and perhaps rambling a little bit if people find that relaxing, or if people find it interesting, or a combination of the two. If they do, I'd be obviously very happy. So this is a bit of an experiment, and I thought I would start with probably the place that I probably should, which is the city that I call home. It's the city of Edinburgh. Some of you might have already seen the video that I posted about a couple of years ago now, which was my secret spot, I called it, in Edinburgh, and that was been fairly well received over the few years that it's been up, and that showed you a small part of the city that maybe you wouldn't know. And I thought, well, if we're going to start something like this, let's start again at home, and where I am currently. So yeah, I was going to just have a look at the city and its surroundings, look at some areas of it on Street View that I think are quite interesting, that you might like to see, and just have a kind of very unstructured ramble as we do it. I have got no script. I haven't done this before. I'm hoping to do this in one complete take, because I'm basically not very good at editing, and also I'm very lazy. So you might hear other sounds in the background. I will try to keep them to a minimum. I hope it doesn't spoil your viewing of this too much, whether it be my seat, or whether it be some external sounds, or whether it be the glass of ice water that I have, just to prevent my mouth getting dry as I'm rambling away here. So I'm not going to do it in a whisper, because I'm not particularly good at whispering. I will just try and talk fairly normally, and maybe try and be a bit softer where I try to remember to do so. So we'll give a brief overview of the city itself, where it is located, and then we'll maybe take a few areas and have a little look at them in a bit more detail on Street View, so you can see what they look like, particularly if you haven't visited, and want to know what Edinburgh outside of the tourist brochures looks like, as well as some of the more common sites. So yeah, so here we are. So yeah, here's the city of Edinburgh. It's the capital of Scotland. It's located in southeast Scotland. Here it sits between this body of water, which is an inlet or an outlet to the North Sea being here. This body of water is called the Firth of Forth, It's largely an estuary, and Edinburgh sits on the southern shore of that. To the south of Edinburgh here is some hillier land, and if we move to the satellite, you can probably see that a bit better as we move. You can see there's sort of hilly land to the south here. That area is the Pentland Hills, and they kind of provide a barrier to the south of Edinburgh. So Edinburgh's sort of hemmed in by the water or the sea on the north side and the hills on the southern side. So we'll just go back to here. In terms of its location, yep, it's in the southern portion of Scotland. It's not too far, about 50 miles or so from Glasgow, which is the largest city in Scotland. And most of the population of Scotland lives in this kind of area here. About 75% of the population of Scotland lives in these areas here. So it's a fairly densely populated area. It's where most people live. It's where most industry is. It's where most jobs are. It's about, I would say, about 3.5 million people, 4 million people live in that area. In terms of its wider geography and location, well, you can see Scotland lies to the north of England and the northern portion of the United Kingdom. Edinburgh is on a fairly northerly latitude. We're very much equivalent to the likes of northern Quebec and Newfoundland over here in Canada, and then if you move further north in some parts of Sweden, you move over to Russia, Siberia over here, we are fairly northern. Although despite that, the climate is quite mild for our latitude. We're obviously influenced by the Atlantic Ocean, and we have warmer winters than you would perhaps get in northern Quebec or in Siberia. We do have cooler summers because we're very much influenced by the North Sea and influenced by the Atlantic Ocean on our west. So yeah, that's a kind of brief overview of where Edinburgh is and Scotland in northwestern Europe. And if we just move back in again to the city, we can maybe take a bit of a closer look at its urban area. So the first thing to say about Edinburgh is it's not a very large city. It's actually fairly small in global terms. It has a population of about 500,000 people, and doesn't have a large urban footprint, as you can probably see. And also within that urban footprint, it does have quite a large amount of green space, which is, I think, is one of the attractions of living here. It has a large number of parks, some very nice parks and green space very close to the urban area. So if you think the grey is a kind of built up area of Edinburgh, it's not very large compared to many cities. It's not even very large when you compare it to Glasgow to its west. There are a number of towns around about Edinburgh that you can see here, places like Dalkeith and Musselburgh on the sort of eastern side, and there's places like Balerno and Queensferry on the western side. They are part of the city of Edinburgh, part of the local authority, but they're obviously slightly remote to the sort of larger urban area. And if we move in a little bit closer, you can have a look at the central part of the city, which again is not very large. It's maybe 2 kilometres by 1 kilometre, and if you were to do a rectangle, so the main part of the city centre. And the dividing line of the city centre, if you like, is the main thoroughfare of Edinburgh, which is here. As you can see, this is Princes Street, and it kind of divides two parts of the historic city centre of Edinburgh. To its south is the Old Town, and to its north is the New Town. Now, the Old Town dates from medieval times and probably even before that. The New Town is a bit newer, dates from about the 1770s, which I do appreciate. For a lot of people it's actually still very old, but compared to the Old Town, it is newer. And that's basically how Edinburgh developed. in its history. It expanded out from the old town to the new town, and then of course everything to the north and the west and the south came up a little bit later. Although Leith, which is up here, which is also part of Edinburgh, has a very separate identity, developed itself. It was historically the port area for Edinburgh, but through urban expansion over many centuries, both Edinburgh and Leith are part of the kind of same city, and Leith is now really just a suburb of Edinburgh. I know that will not make me very popular with people who live in Leith, but that generally has been the case. So one thing to note, and before we get actually looking into some of the streets, is that the old town, again, as I keep saying, is very medieval. It developed very long ago, and it developed a fairly irregular kind of pattern, really, of streets. You can compare that quite clearly to the new town when we look at it, and probably if we look at it on the satellite, you'll get a better flavour of that. You can see when you look at the new town streets that they're laid out fairly orderly, and then there's lots of green space. There's also large elliptical crescents and squares and round kind of crescents as well. Much more space when these were developed. They were also at lower density than what was the case in the old town. You can look at the old town now. I mean, it's much less densely populated than it was in the sort of 1800s, but you can see that there's not a great deal of kind of consistency or structure to it, I suppose. So that's really the two main parts of the city centre. In the middle, between the two, and you can see it here, is Edinburgh Castle, which I suppose most people would associate with the city. It sits high up on a rock, Castle Rock. You don't necessarily get an indication of the altitude when you're looking at it at this level, but when we look at some of the streets down below, we will be able to see that. And together, both the new town and the old town of Edinburgh, this sort of area here, is a World Heritage Site inscribed in UNESCO in 1995. That is, it means that development is very strictly controlled within those areas, and it's not a lot of it hasn't. A lot of the buildings are obviously this, they haven't changed in the sense that they are original. Some of them have been obviously modernised inside, but they are original buildings, and it's to maintain that UNESCO heritage status, they have to be very properly conserved. So yeah, that's the two main parts of the city centre, which is what we're really going to concentrate on. We'll take a quick look first of all. It's not the nicest street in Edinburgh, but it is the main thoroughfare, and it is the best way to get your bearings, I suppose. We'll look at Princes Street. So if I just drag the little man to probably the very top here, just so you can look down it. So yeah, this is Princes Street here, it runs all the way down. This is the eastern end of Princes Street, and it's dominated by this large building with a clock tower on the left. That is the Balmoral Hotel, and that was built to be associated with the railway, and the railway station, the main railway station for Edinburgh, is underground, but that's one of the access points to it. But it's a fairly grand hotel, still a fairly grand hotel, as you can probably see. As you look over this sort of to this elevation here, you can see the old town, which we'll have a look at soon, but that's a lot of the buildings in the old town, and you can see that they are fairly densely packed together. So yeah, this is Princes Street. The north side of it is built up, mostly commercial shops, offices. It's not my favourite street at all, simply because there's some very fine buildings like this one that you see here, and then you don't need to move very far and you can see ones that are more modern and not very nice at all. So it's a bit of a hodgepodge of building styles, sadly, and it's not my favourite street to be on, to be honest. On the south side, you could see this space rocket looking monument. That's the Scott Monument. That's, I think, the largest monument in the world dedicated to an author, Sir Walter Scott, and you can climb up to the top of it, and you can get some good views of it. So yeah, so this is Princes Street, and this building here is quite famous in Edinburgh. It's a department store called Jenner's, and quite an old-fashioned department store. Very nice to go into at Christmas time if you like to see the decorations in the Christmas tree. If we move a bit more quickly towards another part of Princes Street, so much further down, and we've suddenly gone into the gardens. Well, we can suppose have a look at them. These are the Princes Street gardens. These are sunken gardens between sort of the castle here and where we were, Princes Street, just up there. So I'll just try and direct him back onto the actual street. Yeah, that's better. And it's dominated obviously by the castle, which you can see here on Castle Rock, which is the main focus of the early development of Edinburgh was around about the castle. And yeah, that's fairly well known by most people, but yeah, you can see that there's mostly shops and buildings on Princes Street. So as it's not my most favourite part of the city, let's maybe take a little look at somewhere else that might be quite good to have a look at, and maybe get a better view of the castle. So if we come down here, yeah. So this is in the Old Town. We discussed how the Old Town was from medieval times, and you can see the architecture here is a bit more different to what you probably see in some other cities, although it's not terribly unfamiliar to what you would see in other Northern European cities. But the reason I brought you here is because I actually think this is probably the best elevation view of Edinburgh Castle that you can see, just to get an idea of its scale and of its height above the city. It sits on top of this rock, just sort of seamlessly blends into this rock, and you can see the battlements here. And it obviously stretches away around the back, and I need to stop saying obviously as well, because it's not obvious if you've not been here, so I just will correct myself from saying that. But yeah, so it's the castle, and you know, this here is one of the old thoroughfares in the Old Town of Edinburgh. It's the Grassmarket, and it's lined with restaurants and shops, and this is a fairly obviously busy. I must stop saying obviously. It's a bad habit. It's a fairly busy time. I think probably this must be in August, when they have the world famous Edinburgh Festival, the Arts Festival. So yeah, you can see lots of people having a good time here. And yeah, the Grassmarket is quite a nice area when you're able to go and sit in one of the pubs or go to one of the nice restaurants. But we'll just keep going up here past all these people, and we'll come to a street that you might have seen in some of the literature about Edinburgh. And again, we're right in the heart of the Old Town here, and this is Victoria Street, and there is some kind of Harry Potter connection with this street, which somebody's blurred that out, which is not very good, that you might probably see. Perhaps somebody can tell me. I'm not a huge. I've not been a huge fan of Harry Potter. It's not really something I ever got into. It really came after my childhood. I was probably just the wrong age, and I never really got round to going back to reading it. But I know J.K. Rowling is associated with Edinburgh. I know that she wrote some of her or part of her books in the city, and I think some parts that were influenced by it. This street here that we can see, this is Victoria Street, and it somehow has some Harry Potter connection that maybe somebody can tell me what it is. But as far as I'm concerned, it's just a very nice little street, and it's got lots of colourful buildings and some very interesting shops on it, including a very nice cheese shop, if you like cheese, and I do like cheese, which I can go and visit, and some other things as well. I'm just looking at the image capture of this, so it wasn't actually that long ago. It's in 2019, so it's pretty much like this today as well. And we'll just keep going up it again. Still in the old town. I don't know why I keep saying that, because we haven't really moved very far, but you can see the mix of styles. So this building here is the National Library of Scotland, and it's also very close to the Royal Mile, which I think we'll go to next. So the Royal Mile is up here. So let's just keep going. Well, this one was taken in September 2020, so this is very bang up to date. And no doubt you can probably see people wearing masks and things just to show them what year that you're in. So this is the Royal Mile now. Well, this bus is in the way, which is not very helpful, but yeah, the Royal Mile here going down the way, and it starts from the castle, which is just up here. So I guess probably we should go up towards the castle if we can. Maybe they won't allow us onto the esplanade. Yep, there we go. So we're now right in the centre of Edinburgh. We're on the Castle Esplanade, and we've gone back to June 2015 here. So there you go. Oops, sorry, you don't want to get a picture of those, whatever they are. I suspect probably it's something to do with the building of the stands for the Royal Military Tattoo, which takes place in every August, except this August. Anyway, this is the esplanade of the castle. So yeah, probably not a huge surprise to anybody who's thought about Edinburgh before. So let's just sort of quickly go back down the way. So some of the most historical buildings in Edinburgh are here. The Scotch whisky experience and everything. You can obviously visit the interior of the castle if you want, and it's a very popular tourist attraction. One tip for you though is, if you do want to visit it, a good day to go would be the 30th of November, as that is St Andrew's Day, which is Scotland's national day, and it's free to enter on Scotland's national day. So I think it's still free to enter. It used to be, certainly in recent years. I'm sure it probably won't be this year, but it's a good time to go because you don't have to pay the entrance fee. So that is a pro tip for you there. Okay, so let's just wander down these fine buildings on the Royal Mile. We're going back to April 2016. I always love when you do Street View how it just sort of, now we're in July 2014, you have a multi-dimensional time experience as well, because you go through various years. So the Royal Mile, I think, is slightly longer than a mile. It's either slightly longer than a mile or slightly shorter than a mile, but it's not a mile. And it really was kind of the medieval equivalent of Princes Street, because it has all the historical buildings on it. And these buildings, they actually stretched quite down underground and to the catacombs, and there was further levels of streets below that you can actually visit still today. So they are quite, quite old. So we just keep going. These buses get everywhere. And this, we're back to September 2020, so we're really bang up to date here. Yep. These buildings here, this one is the main High Court in Scotland. Well, actually, this whole complex, well, apart from that building, but the High Courts are here, the main Supreme Courts of Scotland, so very integral to the legal system. There is St Giles Cathedral here, which is, again, an old cathedral. And we just keep going down. Let's just keep going down. Yeah, these here is the city chambers, which is technically the historical headquarters of the local authority in Edinburgh. Very nice building, very nice interior if you ever get to go into it. So we're just keeping going here. And we've now gone back to August 2018. So you can see here, actually this is quite an interesting thing to point out. So during August, as I mentioned, the Edinburgh International Festival, the Edinburgh Fringe Festival take place. So it's a very busy time in Edinburgh, as you can see. And at this part of the Royal Mile, you find a lot of the entertainers who have their shows. They come and do, impromptu acts, and they try and drum up business and support for their shows. And it's a very interesting and eclectic atmosphere, and it's well worth coming to Edinburgh in August. Obviously, again, I've said obviously, and I must stop doing that, but this year in 2020 the festival was cancelled for reasons that we're already all acquainted with, and I will not bore you with at this time. So yeah, so August, Royal Mile, busy people. Not a place to walk down if you're faint of heart, usually, because people try and give you leaflets for their shows. So yeah, just it's nice to take in all the buildings here and just see all the various things that are going on. And this is August 2018, so it's not that long ago. And we keep going. We'll just keep going down the Royal Mile. You can see it sort of descends a little bit, so we're just still, we've got lots of old buildings. If you're still with me, well done. I'm not sure that I'm still with me, but it's probably be more interesting for me if I was doing a city that I've not visited before or would like to visit. So I do apologise if it's coming across that I'm not actually doing this particularly well, but as this is my kind of familiar stomping ground, I know all these places quite well. So, but yeah, we're coming down to the bottom of the Royal Mile. We started up at the castle, so we're coming down to the. Oh, by the way, that's a very good place. If you like, if you're a meat eater, you can get very nice pork sandwiches in there. But don't tell anyone I said that. Keeping going. Yeah, now we're coming up here to on the right hand side, and you probably have to prepare yourself for it. This is the Scottish Parliament, and this about 15 years ago caused a great deal of controversy in Edinburgh because of the type of building that it was and how it looked quite distinctive in an area of fairly medieval architecture. So it's a bit different. You'll see it as we go around the corner here, and most people either like it or they don't. I actually quite like it. I think it's a bit different. But this lovely building, part of it here is quite nice. It's a kind of 17th, 18th century building that's been restored, but it's part of the Scottish Parliament. But we'll see it as we go down. The Scottish Parliament looks quite different to that. So here we go. This is one section of it. It's quite a lot of grey and metal and concrete. But we're just going to hopefully crest the corner here. There's another important building on the other side of the road which we'll come to in a minute, but God, it goes very quickly. So yeah, so that's the Scottish Parliament building, and not everybody really likes it, and yeah, it does look a bit incongruous to the landscape. They were obviously building something there then, but that was October 2012. Well, that's a rare sunny day. Actually, it looks quite nice on a rare sunny day with very few clouds in the sky. July 2014. This expanse here, this is Salisbury Crags. This is coming into Holyrood Park, and that's a very nice park with quite highland landscapes in the centre of Edinburgh. You can do some rock climbing there. You can hike up some hills. It's actually, we're very lucky to have that kind of greenery in our city, and it's one of the advantages of living in Edinburgh. The building that I skipped over but shouldn't have, I'll go back the way, although I don't think you can see very much of it, is, yeah, you can just about see it there, but this is the Palace of Holyrood House, and that's the bottom of the Royal Mile. So we've come all the way down from the castle and we've come to the Palace of Holyrood House. That is the official residence of the British monarch in Scotland. She only stays there usually 1 week a year, or 2 weeks a year, usually in July, when there are various garden parties taking place in the grounds of the Holyrood Palace. Other than that, you can pay to go and visit it, but it's the official residence of the Queen in Scotland, really, and there's not really much else I can say to it about that. I have visited it once when I was very small. We went when I was about 5 years old, and you can pay a small fee, and well, it's probably not that small now, but you can pay a fee and you can walk around the middle floors of it, but it's in its own sort of grounds. Much more interestingly is this Holyrood Park that I just mentioned, and because actually I filmed my video from here that I called my secret spot, and I'm just going to show you where that is from here. You can just about see it. Let's just keep going, but as you can see, it's quite an expanse. Really good area to sort of, you know, just not so much this side, but on this side here, you know, you can climb over these. You'll probably just see Arthur's Seat in a minute, I think. We have to keep going. Yeah, there's Arthur's Seat, so you can climb up there. And it was actually, it was this up here was my secret spot, this ruined chapel, St Anthony's Chapel, where I filmed my video. So I just wanted to show you all that, just so you can see. But yeah, you can get a better view of the city when you look this way. Again, this was September 2020, so really bang up to date. Yeah, it's very good. So what I might do is I might just zoom out and go to the map. So and just show you what we covered there on the where we went on the map. So we started up at the Castle Esplanade here, and we came all the way down the central part of the Royal Mile, all the way down to the Palace of Holyrood House and the Scottish Parliament Building, and we came along and we had a look at Holyrood Park. So that's quite a walk. So let's see if we can take you to some other parts of the city that you might not have visited before that are actually very nice to visit. There's quite a few of them. We're very lucky. I always think the city of Edinburgh is actually, more often than anything, it's more an agglomeration of villages. And you can start down here. This is the new town that I was telling you about. And let's take you to show you the difference and how it looks. So quite a good place to start would be Moray Place, which is here. So this is the heart of the new town, and this was built from about the 1770s onwards, and you can see that these buildings are all very grand, and they were obviously, again saying obviously must stop doing that, but they were built by people of substantial means and wealth. You can just see by these colonnades, you know, that's very reminiscent of ancient Roman and Greek architecture. So these are very beautiful buildings. They have very grand interiors. If you ever go into a building in the new town of Edinburgh, they're always stunning. They have original cornicing in the ceiling, and they're all listed. So they're all listed buildings, means that they're protected, and they have very, very grand, beautiful interiors. Some of them don't, because they've actually been modernised inside. So, you know, there are a range of maybe apartments or small flats, or they've been divided up in the years gone by. But generally, the buildings here are very, very grand. They're very, very stunning, both inside and outside. Moray Place is a crescent, is an oval shape, and it's got this garden, you know, quite a big garden or circle in the middle of it. that belongs to the residents of it, but very different to the old town that we sort of skipped down quite recently. So quite a big street, big area, really beautiful buildings, and that's quite reminiscent of some of the other areas of the new town. What I did want to do is I wanted to sort of bring you down. Let me go down to here. It's quite a similar area. Yeah, it's in the new town. We'll just maybe go to the edge of this. I'll just get my bearings as to where I am. Yeah, here we are. So this is quite a nice part of Edinburgh that I like to go to on a Sunday, usually, and I'm recording this on a Saturday night, so I might go down this area tomorrow. This area that we're coming into is called Stockbridge, and it's full of nice little cafes and restaurants and art shops and galleries and shops that are quite independent, second-hand bookshops. I like coming down and spending time here. It's very reminiscent, has a feel of a village. It feels quite different to the rest of the city, and I think it's got a lot to commend it, actually. And you can just see, there's some very nice shops down here. I'm just going to have a little look and see. Yeah, and along the street here as well. Just have a little look. Yeah, we're coming into it now. There's quite often a big market takes place here on a Sunday as well, which is one of the reasons I like to go on a Sunday, because there's a food market down there, and it's a bit like a little village in the city of Edinburgh, and has, as I say, a range of unique independent shops. So sorry, I'm going too fast and you're not really seeing it there, to be honest, but yeah, it's kind of nice. I'm just going to take you. I'm just going down to try and find it. Very close to Stockbridge, and I think we can do it from here. Or maybe not the best place to land, actually. Let's just see. Go back into the road. There's another place. Yeah. Again, I quite like, not the nicest with the metal fencing up, but a little part of Edinburgh called the Dean Village. And again, it lies down on what is probably Edinburgh's river, although it's not really a river. It's called the Water of Leith. But down here, you're at a different elevation from most of the buildings, which you can see are up here, and it's quite tucked away. It's a kind of historical little village in Edinburgh, and again, it has some lovely buildings. I actually think it looks fairly sort of like something you maybe see in France. Like, for example, you can just, I'm not sure you can go in there, but you can just see these really old buildings, and you can tell here that this building was built in 1884. You find that in a lot of buildings in Edinburgh, that when they were built, especially when they were built in the 19th century, that they have some kind of stone plaque that tells you the year they were built, and it usually has the initials of the architect, which is probably what this is here, or the architects. Quite common to see that on buildings that date from that period. Something they don't do now, which is not really a wonder, because most modern buildings, probably the architects don't really want to be associated with them. But in olden days, when they built really beautiful, solid buildings like this, which they just don't do nowadays, they were obviously very proud of them, and they had some kind of commemoration of that. So yeah, so this building dates from 1884, and this is in the Dean Village. So this is a tucked away little part of Edinburgh, down by the water. You can see the sign there for the Water of Leith walkway. Very, very nice, very beautiful part of the city. So let's just see if there are any other areas that we maybe want to have a look at in that part of the town. Maybe not. Let's go down to another part of the city that feels a bit like a village to me, that I quite like going to. Down here, this is an area called Bruntsfield, and again, it's again, it's a bit like I find it's a bit like a village. I'm going too fast, just to kind of show you, but it sits on the kind of western end of. We can go up here and see actually another big expansive green space in the centre of Edinburgh called the Meadows, which you can see here. And you can just see the Salisbury Crags and Arthur's Seat that we saw quite recently when we were down there, and you get a very good view from it here. You can see more modern buildings on the horizon, which have a tendency to spoil the view. I suppose you can probably see from or hear from the way that I'm describing this that I'm not an enormous fan of modern buildings. I am in a sense, but I think they have a place. I don't necessarily think they have a place in a historic and medieval city like Edinburgh, to be honest. But Bruntsfield, it's very nice there. It's a lovely part of the city. Again, beautiful old, what we would call tenement buildings with quite a range of architectural styles. I'm just going to take a drink of water, so apologies if you hear some ice clinking, but that might just add to the effect. Some patriotic person in that building there. But yeah, it's a very nice, lovely part of the city. I quite like it. It's got lots of nice restaurants. I'm moving too fast. I really am. I do apologise. I am moving too fast. You can't really take a lot of it in. So I need to remember that for the next time. This is a wet day. I don't know when this was. August 2020. So yeah, not long ago. So again, it looks pretty much like this. Again, fortunately, there's quite a lot of traffic. But of course, it being August, it just shows you the usual weather that we have in this city in the summertime. It can be a little bit wet. Oh, we've gone to sunshine, and we've gone a month. We're now in September 2020, so again, bang up to date with what's going on. 2020. We're still staying in 2020. Yeah, but yeah, as I say, it's a very nice part of the town. Actually, we went past very fast what we call Holy Corner, and the reason it's called Holy Corner is there's a number of churches on this part of there. There's one there, one on that side, one there, and one there behind the tree. So that's Holy Corner. I was actually down that way today. But it's a kind of like a little town within the town of Edinburgh, and you can actually, if we can keep going, you can just about see some of the other hills of Edinburgh. We've gone to another wet day. Oh no, this is August 2020, so we're still there. So this is heading down towards a suburb of Edinburgh called Morningside. So let me just zoom out and just see if there's any other areas that I think might be worth having a little look at in Edinburgh. We've covered actually quite a lot. I know I've moved far too fast around some of that, so I really do apologise. I have to bear that in mind if I'm making any more of these. I don't really want to. I don't really want to put you off or make it difficult. I know my rambling is probably incessant, and I do apologise for that. This is an experiment. This is a new thing that I'm doing. So I'm trying to learn as I go, and it's a bit different, hopefully, to what I hope will make in the future, where it's somewhere that I don't know or I haven't been to before, that I can actually maybe just be more descriptive rather than explanatory, if that makes sense. I feel that I'm maybe trying to explain a little bit too much. So, but if you like rambling, then you've come to the right place, really, because I've certainly done a lot of that, and it's probably inane. And I don't probably intend to listen to this because it is so inane. If you've learned anything, then I'm very happy for you as well. Just give me your feedback. I'll take all feedback, including critical feedback. Please do give it to me. I'll be very happy to take on board your comments. Yeah, I mean, I think that covers quite a lot of it. It's a very quick, tour of the city. I suppose what we could do is we could maybe have a little look at the other parts of the Holyrood Park, because I've got the little man. Let's put him back. When we came down the Royal Mile, we had a look at Holyrood Park from Queen's Drive here, but you can see it's quite a big, expansive part to the south side of it. And you could obviously, not saying obviously, but you can climb to the top. I wonder if we get something from up there what it looks like. Yeah, so that's my secret spot, is it? I think it is. Oh, I didn't mean to go there. Oh, it wasn't my intention, but that's where I was, and it's not so secret because there's other people there. Apologies. Let me just try and see if I can go higher up. Here we are. So, this is the top of Arthur's Seat, which is, it's actually not a difficult climb. I've done it several times, and if I can do it, anybody can do it. It's quite rocky as you get towards the top, as you can see. It's ancient volcanic rock, but you do get a fantastic view on a clear day. This is a fairly clear day, so you're looking down over the north of Edinburgh here. This is the castle is there. Whoops, zoom in. The castle. You can see the new town over here, the old town over here. You can see there's a range of hills there. That's Corstorphine Hill, and Edinburgh Zoo is located on that. You look down towards the south of Edinburgh, and then of course, as we go back to the beginning, and when I was talking about the location of Edinburgh, you can see the Pentland Hills to the south, and you can see how Edinburgh is sort of hemmed in between the water and the hills, and it's in this space. So it's in a sort of its own kind of valley, if you like. But there's lots of green space in Edinburgh, and that is very good. The south of Edinburgh is here. It's quite residential. There's some high rises. You don't quite get the view of the coast. So that's looking out into the Firth of Forth that we talked about. That's the Firth of Forth here. There's a few islands in it. The north of that is the Kingdom of Fife, and you can just about on the horizon here see the Forth bridges, the three of them that there are now, that take you over the Forth over towards Edinburgh. So that's quite a good viewpoint. So let's just come away from there and just see if there's anywhere else that I would quite like to show you. I've shown you quite a lot actually, and you're probably getting completely bored with me now, so I will probably think about wrapping this up in the next few minutes. But yeah, it's a very, very nice city. There's lots to commend it, and I suppose we could probably take a look at maybe an area that's not quite so well known. I guess let's do that before we wrap this up. We could go down to we could go down this way. I did mention Leith before. Leith is we call it the port of Edinburgh, and it is, I suppose, it's maybe not an area that people would probably go to when they come to Edinburgh, but it's actually very nice down there, and it's being the one thing I would say about Leith is it's actually being quite aggressively developed at the moment. They're building quite a lot of new apartment blocks down there. They're building a lot of new commercial buildings down there, moving a lot of people into the area. Is one of the reasons why Edinburgh's tram system is being extended down to Leith, because there's quite a lot of population growth down there, a lot of people moving down to Leith. So let's just see if there's a pretty good Let's go here, I think, and see if it takes me where I think we are going to. Yes. So this is a shore in Leith, and it's quite well known in Edinburgh because, maybe not particularly this part of it, but I'll just see if I'm in the right place. Maybe I'm not in the right place. I don't think I am in the right place. But, well, we're in the general area, but this area of the shore is very well known for its restaurants, particularly its seafood restaurants. You know, it has its own character compared to the rest of the city down there. It's on the water side as well, which is very nice, particularly during the summer. You know, we're actually again in September 2020, so the streets are a lot quieter than they would normally be. But you know, it's a very nice part of the world down there. But there is quite a lot of development going on in certain areas. Sorry, I'm going too fast, I know, and I need to cut that out for the next time. But you can see there's like lots of buildings being built down there. They're not obviously terribly new, but they're moving lots of people in. Leith had a bit of a hard reputation because it fell on quite hard times in the 1980s when the main shipyard there closed. It created a lot of unemployment and there was a lot of problems, but it has been quite substantially regenerated, particularly on the water side, with new offices like, for example, this one, and it's got a different character in Edinburgh. It's not maybe as nice as the sort of central parts of the city, but it's there, and it's got its own character, and it's worthwhile going to. There's a large shopping centre, which you can probably just see here, that is close to the waterfront. It's Ocean Terminal, and it is home to the Royal Yacht Britannia, which is there for people that do want to. It's a big tourist attraction in Edinburgh, of course. People come to see the Royal Yacht Britannia. It's closed at the moment for the foreseeable future because of the current situation. But all of this land now this is May 2018, but all of this land, is being really quite well redeveloped and I'm moving too fast. I'm really sorry. I need to stop doing that. It's not as good. But yeah, it's been redeveloped for housing and investment in housing and things like that as well. So a much different area to Leith. To Edinburgh, not to Leith. It is Leith. Apologies. I can probably show you some of the modern buildings, but they wouldn't look out of place in any city in the world. But here we are here. There's lots of these buildings being built on the waterfront. Lots of these apartments being built on the waterfront. They wouldn't look out of place in any city in Europe or in the world or wherever. But all of this green space is being redeveloped quite aggressively to buildings that are very similar to this. I don't think these buildings have anything to commend them whatsoever. I'm quite glad they're quite far away from the general part of the city, so I don't have to go and see them. You don't have to go there unless you really have to go there. So it's a bit different. One thing I would say actually, and I don't know if we can get a very good view of it, maybe this will give us a good view of it. Let's just have a look. Yeah, it might do. One thing I do think the city of Edinburgh is not very good at doing, this is on the other side of these horrid buildings, but Edinburgh does have a very expansive waterfront and it has a very expansive coastline, but it doesn't, unlike many other cities in the world, it doesn't actually make very much of that. If this was somewhere else, you could imagine this would be a boardwalk, it would have cafes on it, it would have some other things on it as well. It is the city, it's the seafront of the city, and it's not really used very much. And I think that's something that they should actually look to do. And I think they probably will over the years as more people actually move into these particular areas. Having said that, and I know I said I was going to go on, but one of the other sort of interesting parts of Edinburgh that I didn't show you is its beach. You probably don't know that Edinburgh has its own beachside suburb. Well, it does, called Portobello, which sounds very nice. That's the beach. It's not really the nicest beach you will ever see, but it is Edinburgh's beach. For any city, that has a beach, it's not quite Bondi Beach, it's not quite Waikiki, but it is Edinburgh's beach. And if there is ever a nice day weather-wise, you'll find it very packed with people who will be lying there and also swimming in the sea. It has got its own kind of boardwalk that does kind of run alongside it. Used to be a very popular holiday destination for the Victorians, particularly people from Glasgow. They used to come through in the summer months because apparently back in those days the weather was a lot better than it is now. And they used to come and they would spend their holidays at Portobello and close to the sea. And it fell into a kind of decline for a large part of the 20th century, and it's really only been in the last 15 years or 20 years or so that it's been slightly regenerated, and they've improved transport links to get people from the city to go down there and spend more time down there if they want to. So it can get quite busy down there on better weather. It fringes the Forth as well, so it's a very cold expanse of water if you want to do any swimming. So that has been a complete unstructured ramble. I probably haven't even shown you the nice parts of the city. I have probably made a mess of it. I have done it in one take. It is very much experimental. If you like this, let me know. If you don't, let me know, and I'll maybe do this again in the not too distant future. And thank you very much for listening. If you're still here, you should get a medal, and all the best to you, and hopefully see you again very, very soon. Thanks very much. Bye bye.